Before we begin, take a moment to breathe. If you find value in stories that blend human emotion with timeless wisdom, consider subscribing to the channel. Your presence here supports mindful content in a noisy world. Now, let us enter the story. Leo had always prided himself on being a man of control. His life was a neat sequence of bullet points: married, father, career steady, weekends with the in-laws, meditation on Sundays, maybe a retreat once a year if the stars aligned. Ava, his wife, was different, fluid, passionate, full of emotional undercurrents and strange longings that she couldn't always name. She taught yoga, read Rumi aloud in bed, and spoke of the soul like it was a roommate she hadn't seen in years but still paid rent for. They were, by all appearances, a balanced couple. But balance, as Ava would often say, is not stillness. It's motion like a dancer on a wire, always adjusting, always one breath from falling. And fall she did. It began innocently, or so she told herself. Zach was a student in her Wednesday morning vinyasa class. He was younger, late 20s, maybe, with a soft voice and a sad intensity that Ava found magnetic. He lingered after class to talk about breathwork and existential loneliness. It was harmless, she told herself. He needed someone to talk to. So did she. Texting turned to voice notes. Voice notes turned to coffee. Coffee turned into sweat and skin and guilt, tangled on the back seat of his Prius in the parking lot of the co-op market. Ava told herself stories that she was lost, that Leo didn't really see her, that this wasn't cheating, it was an awakening. But Leo saw more than she knew. He didn't confront her at first. Instead, he began watching. Her phone always faced down. Her sudden evening sound baths. The extra yoga pants that weren't hers. When she whispered in her sleep one night, Zach, his whole body went numb. He tried to convince himself it was nothing, that it was a dream. But by the end of the week, he had confirmed everything. Her messages, the photos, even a half-written note in her journal. "I'm sorry, Leo. I had to find me." He stared at those words for a long time. I had to find me. What did that even mean? Zach, for all his incense-scented charm, was no bodhisattva. He was also sleeping with another woman from his CrossFit group, and occasionally his ex when he felt lonely. Ava didn't know that part. She had turned him into a symbol, a flame to her moth. She thought she was burning for truth. But truth doesn't hide in motel rooms. Their mutual friend, Maya, tried to stay neutral. She had always been closer to Ava, but she found herself drawn to Leo's quiet suffering. One evening they met for tea, and the conversation turned. Maya placed her hand gently over Leo's. He didn't pull away, just looked at her and whispered, "I don't know who she is anymore." Maya said nothing. She didn't need to. Silence often knows more than speech. The web tangled further. The confrontation was not explosive. Leo wasn't that kind of man. When he told Ava he knew, she didn't deny it. She cried, but it was the kind of cry that carried more relief than remorse. He asked her why. "I needed to feel alive again," she said. "And what about us?" he asked. "I don't know who I am anymore," she whispered. He paused, looked her in the eye. "If you don't know who you are, then who exactly is doing all this damage?" She had no answer. They decided to separate. That night, Leo slept on the floor of their daughter's room. He watched her chest rise and fall and wondered, what legacy are we handing down when the adults are so good at hiding their pain, but so bad at healing it? Ava went to stay at a small cabin retreat near Mount Shasta. It was run by monks who spoke little and prayed often. She turned off her phone, ate rice and vegetables in silence. At night she cried in the meditation hall, the sound swallowed by incense and shadows. Zach had stopped replying. When she finally confronted him through a borrowed device, he said flatly, "I never promised anything." Her stomach dropped. She had thought it was a story, a great love, a disruption worthy of poetry. But now it felt more like a transaction, and she wasn't sure who had sold what. In one of the late evenings, a monk passed her a copy of the Heart Sutra. No commentary, just the plain lines in English. She read it under candlelight. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form. It didn't land right away, but the words echoed in her chest like bells underwater. In the stillness, she began to read again. Not Instagram quotes or yoga slogans, but actual sutras. She found herself returning to a passage from the Diamond Sutra. All appearances are illusory. If one sees all appearances as no appearance, then one sees the Tathagata. She sat with that for days. If no self exists, who cheats? Who suffers? Who seeks pleasure? What exactly was she chasing, love? Meaning? Or just the dissolving of her own unbearable self-image? She realized that she wasn't running from Leo. She was running from the failure of the image she had built, wife, healer, awakened woman. And when that image cracked, she tried to fill it with someone else's body. But the hole wasn't in her marriage. It was in her mind. She recalled a teaching she'd once brushed aside as too abstract. Desire is not the problem. Clinging is. And suddenly, it clicked. She had clung not to Zach, or even Leo, but to the illusion that someone else could anchor her sense of existence. Buddhism doesn't absolve us of responsibility. Understanding no self doesn't mean no consequences. Quite the opposite. When we see clearly that the self is a construct, we begin to understand how much suffering we cause trying to defend it. The moment Ava stopped trying to define herself, she felt grief, yes, but also a strange peace. She realized there was work to do. Here are 6 techniques that helped her begin again, not as a new version of herself, but as no one in particular. 1. Sit with the discomfort. Don't rush to fix or understand. Let the shame burn. Let it dissolve. 2. Name the illusion. I am a terrible person. He ruined me. I'll never love again. None of these are true. They're just mental weather. 3. Practice metta. Loving kindness is not about being nice. It's about seeing clearly and wishing well anyway. May I be free. May he be free. May we all be free from our stories. 4. Shadow work journaling. Write. The parts of others I hate are the parts I hide in me. Then look at those parts. You'll find yourself there. 5. Take refuge in Sangha. Don't isolate. Speak with wise friends. Let others mirror your blind spots. 6. Let the self die daily. Each day question, who am I defending? What am I protecting? Let go. Leo never raised his voice. He never blamed her in public. When the papers were signed, he simply left a letter with 3 lines. You are not who I thought you were, but neither am I. May both our illusions rest in peace. Ava read it outside the monastery gate. She didn't cry, not then, but she did bow to the wind, to the past, to the emptiness that might finally set her free. She stayed on for another month, not out of sadness, but because she didn't want to rush back into the world as a woman, reborn or transformed. She wanted for the first time to simply be no one in particular. And as she began walking, she whispered, almost without knowing, "May all beings be free from suffering." If this story touched something within you, share it with someone who may need it too. Subscribe for more narratives where ancient wisdom meets the struggles of modern life. And remember, sometimes the greatest clarity comes after we lose everything we thought mattered.